We'll now start with our first hands-on task, which is setting up our Dart development environment. The first step is downloading the SDK from dartlang.org. When you go to the site, you'll see that there are Windows, Mac, and Linux SDK packages available for download. In this module, we'll demo how to download and install the SDK into a Windows-based environment, Windows 8 to be specific, and we'll walk through the steps to complete SDK installation and configuration. In installing the Dart SDK on a Windows system, you have two options. To download the SDK itself, install it directly, and configure it manually, or to use Chocolatey to do all of this for you automatically. Chocolatey is an installation manager which can be run from the command line to download, install, and configure the Dart SDK for you. Choosing this option gives you the continued convenience of using Chocolatey to keep your SDK updated and configured properly with the current SDK via a single command line utility. We can easily download and install Chocolatey from the command line at chocolatey.org. The instructions are there, which we will go through and execute. The chocolatey.org install page is hyperlinkable from the Dart SDK Windows download page. We'll now walk through the steps of downloading, installing, and configuring the Dart SDK for Windows using Chocolatey. You'll notice we're at dartlang.org downloads, and we're viewing the download Dart page. You'll notice that for our demo, we'll be installing Dart version 1.12.1. You can install whichever version is current. Always choose the most current stable release for initial installation, as the steps in this demo will remain the same when using Chocolatey. Version differences will not affect the steps we'll walk through here. They'll remain the same. We can click the Installing Dart on Windows link to take us to the page we need. On this page, we'll see the section for installing using Chocolatey. The simple command line instructions for installing Dart are listed. A line for the Dart SDK and another for Dartium, the Dart-infused Chrome browser. We can now click on the chocolatey.org hyperlink and view the Chocolatey installation instructions page. Here there are instructions for an administrative command line option and those for using Windows PowerShell. We'll choose the administrative command line route. We can now swipe and copy the command line entry for Chocolatey install. This we will paste into an administrative command line prompt. Be certain to paste the entry into a command line granted administrative privileges. At the command line, drop to the drive root. Then click the upper left command line icon to expose the options menu. Choose Edit and Paste. Our commands and arguments are now set. Hit the Enter button and Chocolatey will download, install, and configure itself. The process is reported as it carries out. When it completes, be certain there was no failure message in the log reporting. If you get an error or a failure message, close and reopen the command line window and repeat the installation steps. With a successful Chocolatey installation, we can minimize our command line window, go back to our browser, go backwards, back to the dartlang.org page, and we now have the command line options to install the Dart SDK with Chocolatey. We can now swipe and copy the first command line entry, which is the Dart SDK installation. Notice we are on version 1.12.1, as we'll need to enter that into the command line when we do install. We can now go back to the command prompt, and we can go from here at the C root, but what we'll want to do is change directories to where we actually want the SDK installed. I have a particular place on my machine that I use. I will navigate there. I can now paste in our copied command line entry. At the end of the command line is our version argument. We'll back out the template and enter version 1.12.1. And hit enter to start the installation process. Here I'm getting an error because I do already have version 1.12.1 installed. I have the options apparently to reinstall or force an installation over the top. I'll choose force, and the installation begins. At this point, the process is asking me to reconfirm running the installation script, which I'll have to do. And of course, y is not the answer to the question, but 1 is. And the process starts. Some logging information near the top of the screen. And here we have a success message, and it's showing us that 0 packages failed and the installation was successful. We now return to the dartlang.org page, swipe and copy the Dartium installation command, return to the command line prompt, and edit and paste the command into the command line, remove the version template, enter the 1.12.1 version, hit enter, and the process begins. At this point, we can see we've got a successful installation. 0 packages failed. We can see the path for installation of Dartium, tools/Dartium, and we can also see the path to the Chocolatey installation logs. So at this point, we've got our SDK installed and Dartium installed. This is all going to be managed by Chocolatey for further maintenance.